The whispering woods stood silent as Joseph stepped past the tree line. Behind him, Sam, Sarah, Max, Chloe, Mia, and Ben followed in a tight line. Their goal lay deep within the mountain, but the forest demanded respect. Joseph pushed aside a heavy, low-hanging branch, revealing a trail that tilted sharply upward. It was not a path, but a slide of loose gravel and jagged earth. Joseph took the lead, boots digging into the shifting slope. Dust clouded the air with every step. He reached for a ledge of exposed rock to steady his ascent, but his fingers found only crumbling shale. The ground gave way. Joseph slid backward, knees hitting the hard dirt with a sharp impact. Before he could tumble further, Sarah lunged forward. She caught his arm, anchoring him against the slope. He regained his footing, heart hammering against his ribs, and looked back at the others. No one spoke. The danger was immediate and real. They tightened their grip on their gear and turned back to the climb. Every footfall was now measured. Every handhold was tested twice. The forest watched, and they moved forward with a new, shared focus. By midday, the trees thinned and the sound of rushing water filled the air. They emerged at the bank of the crystal stream where a bridge once stood. Now only a few moss-slicked logs remained, spanning the gap above the churning water. Chloe went first, arms outstretched, feet shifting to find purchase on the wet wood. She wobbled, corrected her balance, and reached the far bank. Mia followed, stepping cautiously onto the first log. Halfway across, she stopped, her knees locked. She stared down at the water, paralyzed by the height and the roar of the stream. The group fell silent on the bank. Joseph did not wait. He uncoiled the rope from his pack, tied a heavy knot, and threw it across the gap. It landed near Mia's feet. "Grab it!" he shouted over the water. Mia reached out, wrapped the rope twice around her waist, and lowered herself, crawling the rest of the way on hands and knees. When she reached the grass, the others pulled her up. They stood together, soaked from the spray and breathless, but the hesitation was gone. The ravine had been crossed, and the group moved deeper into the woods with a renewed sense of purpose. Hours of trekking brought them to a sheer rock face. A heavy stone slab blocked the entrance, seamless against the cliff. Max and Sam stepped forward, pressing their shoulders against the cold rock. They pushed until their faces flushed and veins stood out on their necks, but the stone barely shuddered. Joseph scanned the ground and found a sturdy branch. He jammed it into the small gap at the base, creating a fulcrum. "Together," he commanded. With a unified heave, they pressed against the stone while Joseph forced the branch downward. The slab groaned, grinding against the earth, and finally slid an inch. They leaned in, muscles burning, and pushed again. The stone rolled aside with a final, heavy thud. A wave of cool, still air brushed their faces. Beyond the opening, the cave did not sit in darkness. A faint, pulsing blue light emanated from the deep tunnels, casting long, shifting shadows against the walls. Joseph pulled the compass from his pocket. The needle spun in frantic, erratic circles. Before locking onto the middle path, the group stepped inside, their boots echoing on the damp stone floor. The blue light intensified, pulling them forward into the mountain heart. The tunnel widened, spilling them into a vast, cavernous chamber. In the center, resting on a pedestal of carved stone, the golden compass glowed with a steady golden warmth. Joseph took a step forward, but Sarah reached out, catching his arm. She pointed at the floor. The ground between them and the pedestal was not smooth stone. It was a grid of pressure plates, each one slightly raised. Joseph picked up a loose pebble and tossed it toward the nearest plate. As soon as the stone made contact, a sharp click echoed through the chamber. A silver dart whistled through the air, inches from Joseph's shoulder, and buried itself deep into the stone wall behind him with a sickening thud. The group lunged back, pressing themselves against the tunnel opening. Silence returned, heavy and suffocating. No one moved. The dart remained visible, vibrating in the wall, a testament to the lethality of the path ahead. Joseph watched the ceiling, his eyes scanning the shadows for more triggers. The prize was only 20 feet away, but that distance had transformed from a simple walk into a gauntlet. Every breath they took felt loud in the stillness. They were no longer just explorers. They were prey in a room built to kill. Joseph spotted the iron rings bolted into the high ceiling. He coiled his rope, swung it, and the hook bit into the metal. He jumped, legs tucked, and soared over the lethal floor. He landed hard on the far side, scrambled up, and snatched the golden compass from its perch. The moment his fingers closed around the metal, the chamber groaned, the ceiling cracked, dust rained down, thick and choking. Joseph shoved the compass into his bag and pointed toward a jagged hole in the rock. "Move!" he shouted. The floor gave way behind them, stone blocks plummeting into a dark abyss. Joseph pushed his friends toward the narrow gap. He crawled through, the rock scraping his shoulders, his heart hammering against his ribs. The mountain shrieked, a low, grinding roar that shook the very air. Rocks shattered against the walls as they scrambled on hands and knees, fighting for every inch. The opening narrowed until they were forced to drag themselves forward by their elbows. Behind them, the cave mouth collapsed, sealing the chamber in a cloud of debris. They lunged through the final gap, tumbling out into the night air and sliding down a steep, grassy slope into the valley below. They lay motionless on the cool grass, chests heaving as the mountain's roar faded into the distance. Above them, the stars were sharp points of light in the vast sky. Joseph pulled the golden compass from his bag. It pulsed with a soft, steady rhythm, casting a warm glow onto their faces. They stood up slowly, limbs heavy, and began the long trek back through the forest. The map remained untouched in his pocket. They did not need it anymore. They reached the edge of the village as the moon climbed to its peak. Joseph looked at his companions. Their skin was streaked with dirt, their hands marked by scrapes and dried blood. They had left as children chasing a legend, but they walked back as survivors of the mountain. He reached his front door and pushed it open. The house was quiet and still. He walked to his desk and set the compass down. The object caught the moonlight, reflecting a steady, unwavering beam across the wood. He pulled off his boots and sat on the edge of his bed. His muscles throbbed with the fatigue of the climb, a dull ache that served as a reminder of the ground they had covered. He looked toward the window, where the silhouette of the mountain stood against the night. The path had been broken, the terrain dangerous, and the traps lethal, Yet they had navigated it all. Joseph watched the compass one last time. He reached out, turned off the lamp, and let the darkness settle. He was already planning the next map, his mind tracing new lines across the unknown.